great to see Caroline find out that Valerie was pregnant with Stefan's child, and they're kind of rebuilding this relationship.
Yeah, I mean, Caroline and Valerie have a very interesting dynamic in the upcoming episodes. There is a lot of tension because, what I love is that we've seen Caroline become such a strong character and kind of fight off a lot of her insecurities. And what I think is interesting is now that she's with Stefan, and especially this season, her insecurities are actually coming back really strong. She's been a very insecure girlfriend this season, which I think is natural because she's had this build up of a relationship for so long, and I think she's just waiting for something bad to happen. And so, Valerie kind of comes into town, and she now knows their history to what she thinks she knows the full extent, but there's still secrets that they're keeping. So we're going to see Caroline and Valerie interacting a lot in the next couple episodes, and Valerie will definitely, as their relationship blossoms, begin to reveal more truths about her character individually, and her history with Stefan.
So Caroline Dries was saying, some of us were at a screening last week at the CW, that one of the problems for your character is that Stefan he doesn't always reveal his emotions, and he keeps a lot of things inside. He's trying to be a good guy to Valerie as well. So how is she sort of kind of going off of that one, just sort of dealing with him and he's trying to be a good guy, but he's not saying all the things that she wants him to say?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting pattern between the relationship of Caroline and Stefan. Especially, Caroline wasn't necessarily there for all the scenes we've seen, but, for viewers of the show that have seen Stefan in a relationship with Elena, he was very open. He did put her first. And that's not what we're really seeing now that these two characters have come together. So, I think that is kind of interesting because it's been all this hard work and all this build-up. And, and sometimes in real life, relationships either make sense or they don't. If you really, really, really have to try really hard to make it work, is it supposed to work? And I think that's kind of the question that's not really at the forefront of either Caroline or Stefan's minds, but at least when I'm reading the episodes, that's kind of personally me as Candice, how I'm looking at the scenario as an outside viewer.
In the flash forward, we kind of see that she's left Mystic Falls behind, doesn't want to go back. Has she fully cut everyone out of her life, or is there anybody that she's still kind of, and you don't have to say who, but is there any of her past that she's still hanging on to?
I don't think Caroline's a very cutting out kind of gal. So just because she's directed her attention somewhere else, I think she's very much still attached to Mystic Falls and her life and traditions and all those wonderful magical things that she holds on to very dearly and has for many, many seasons.
Are we going to learn who her fiance is in the flash forward soon, or is that something that's still yet to be revealed?
Yes, you will learn who her fiance is very soon.
Is it who you were hoping for it to be?
Well, no, I'm just trying to say it without giving it away. I figured it out. I was very excited. It stumped me for a minute, and then I figured it out.
The show has kind of started the dawn of social media and has kind of grown with that. And what element is that added, having that instant reaction from the fans over time?
I love that question. I actually was just talking about this at dinner the other night. It was so fascinating to become part of a series, especially a series that is geared towards, a younger audience that was at the forefront of social media, where, I only joined Twitter because all the writers were on there and I wanted to feel cool and talk to them. That was it. That was literally the only reason. And then, the fact that when our show started, Instagram wasn't even around, it's really wild to have taken this journey in the social media age. And I think it's definitely impacted the series in a way that, where Klaus and Caroline, I don't think would have ever necessarily been as big of a ship as the kids say, as it was without social media. And I think that there's tons of scenarios in which, social media has played a huge part in the trajectory of this series. I also think it's been, really fascinating to see the decline of ratings being that defining, accomplishment of, or defining bar in which, that means whatever the ratings are, that's how many people are watching the show. And what's wild to me is, working on a show for almost 7 years, and I live a very normal life, very boring. I really don't get recognized very often, and it's really been in the more in the last couple of years since the birth of like a Netflix and a Hulu and all the different mediums in which to watch television. And now it's younger kids who wouldn't have been able to watch it back then, and and who are just binge watching it now, or people who are like, yeah, I just like caught the flu and then just watched all the seasons, and I'm really excited for this new season. And that didn't exist before. You were either part of watching Dawson's Creek or you weren't. That was it. Right. In my generation, as if I'm so old, but it is really bizarre. I think that and exciting, and it just can't kind of put your finger on it. You're kind of told for so long too as an actor, you need to kind of hide your identity, and you want to protect yourself, and you don't want to be defined by who you are so you can play other characters. But now we're living in an age where opportunities are coming from showing your own personality and saying this is who I am, and creating this like lifestyle on social media. I could go on talking about it for a really long time, but yeah, it's a very interesting time to have embarked on this television journey.
So how are you feeling, first of all, with your pregnancy, and how is that affecting your filming, or are you having to do anything to hide that? Or?
I'm feeling really good.
You look great.
Thank you. Thanks. Definitely clothes change, Mm-hmm. Probably the biggest difference is I just keep Tums in my makeup bag now. That's been the most dramatic change. And more comfortable shoes, all those normal things.
So Julian and the Heretics, obviously Julian is a problem the brothers are going to try and tackle. Your character is obviously very interested in getting the Heretics out of Mystic Falls. I guess he's part of it now. Are we going to start to see her play into the let's get rid of Julian and kill him and hurt Lily plot?
We're gonna, in the next couple episodes, we're gonna see Caroline and the Heretics kind of have an interesting dynamic. So that exactly what you just said. That really is where her focus is more on the Heretics, and and now not even just on these are some bad girls in town. There's a whole other personal level of who is this, past love of Stefan's. So that's where her attention will be for the most part in the episodes coming forward, as far as Julian and Lily and the Heretics are concerned.
Can you talk about how Enzo's betrayal kind of affects her relationship with him a little bit going forward?
Yes, we won't see a lot of Caroline and Enzo hanging out. That's what. That's probably the biggest tell.
What are we going to see from Bonnie and Caroline's friendship going forward? Because we've seen them kind of check in with each other from time to time, but we haven't seen them share a central storyline recently.
Yes, they've both Bonnie and Caroline have kind of been in their own storylines as of late, so we will see them have some moments together, but I think they're just in different places, which is also true to life. I think you go to college with your best friend, and then you kind of get wrapped up in your own lives a little bit, and so we have some really great sweet scenes that in which you can see that the bond is still very strong between the both of them.
Are we getting another holiday episode, or one that involves trees?
Always holiday episodes. Yes.
You've already filmed this, so tell us a little bit about what we're going to see. Will it be a tree this time?
There wasn't a tree. Santa was there. And
Wait, is someone playing Santa?
no, just in general, Santa was there, and a lot of beautiful snow that is obviously not real and made to look very real, and I think it looked really beautiful. Yeah, it was really fun. I always love the holiday episodes because it just gets you excited and ready for the holidays, and it is. Everyone kind of comes to work being like a little extra cheerful, and you know, and when the snow is kind of falling and you're like, this is so magical, having like that Edward Scissorhands moment.
What did Stefan buy for Caroline for Christmas?
I don't know. There was no gift exchanging in our Christmas episode. But yeah.
So we hear that Stefan and Caroline are finally going to get to go on a real date. Can you give us a little tease about how that's going to go?
Yes. I can.
Paul just said it was going to go sour. So that's all we know
I'm like,
about it.
damn it, Paul! What did you say? Now I gotta like clean up everything he just said. No. Yes, we're gonna see Caroline and Stefan want to do the things that they haven't really done at this point, which is like go on a normal date, and it doesn't go as planned. And so we're going to kind of notice that is a pattern with these two, is that any sort of normalcy beyond, the supernatural forces in their relationship, it's just non-existent at this point.
With Vampire Diaries and the originals airing on the same night, do you think we might see a crossover this year?
I mean, we've done crossovers in the past, so I think it's completely possible that there'll be more crossovers. It's still, even though we're kind of at the midpoint in the season, there's still plenty of time to go. But I mean, at this point, to be quite frank, there was a trajectory for this particular season, and it's already completely shifted, a couple times over. And that's really common, for every season. So who knows? It really is. Just as every other season we've shot, there's, possibilities for anything.
Can you preview in 707, it says that Valerie gives Caroline some news and it's not necessarily good news, like how that affects the relationship between her and Stefan?
Between Caroline and Stefan?
Yes.
Again, Caroline and Stefan really are, it seems like every time they take 2 steps forward, there's a giant leap back in their relationship. And kind of what I said before, I mean, when 2 people have to work really, really hard just to accomplish simple, easy parts of what a relationship should or could be, is it really worth it? And so, they have a lot of beyond supernatural roadblocks per se. They're having a difficulty finding any sort of normalcy in their relationship. I mean, there's been multiple times where the big bad wolf, teams up with the good guys in this series. So, there's been times where, Enzo was on the bad team and then he's swapped to the good team. You know what I mean? That where even if Klaus was not really a good guy and then he teamed up with that. There's all those things. So just because someone's bad and, considered to be the bad guy in one episode, I don't think it really defines them throughout the series. It can always change.
We're on this beautiful mansion set, and you have so many gorgeous-looking sets, and does that add a really interesting element to the show? Absolutely.
Set design and just the world that's been created here in Atlanta is, I think, what makes it definitely brings an element of extraordinary and special to the show. The fact that we have so many stages and it's not just popping onto one stage and they kind of rotate in and out of, the same rooms, and you're either at school or you're at this house. Instead we have multiple homes. We have, the fact that they can create motels and hotels and restaurants and, the bottom of a ship, and we've got the grill, we've got like the skull bar, we have all these houses. I mean, to walk around, to do a proper set tour of every part, our set in which you can shoot on is, usually around a 2-hour trek to see everything. And this is still, you know, my first television series that I've been a part of as a regular. And so, you know, to my knowledge, it's not usually like that. So it is so wonderful, especially, you know, those first years on a series. You're so lucky if you get to this point where you're 7 years in. But those first couple of years when you're on location all the time, you know, it can be very hard and, you know, and exciting, but very difficult on the cast and crew, and long hours and driving everywhere. And so the fact that we now have like the Disney world of you know, shooting locations right here at our stages is really cool.